welcome to the Popish plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
So, here we are in the midst of Lent.
3 days and going strong.
Yeah.
Ish.
Has it been 3 days already?
Well, it doesn't seem like it only because there are so many darned rules about food during Lent.
There's
Yes.
like two.
So many darned rules.
Two.
So, we recently passed Ash Wednesday, and here we are. Is it Friday?
It's the
Yeah.
Friday after Ash Wednesday.
It's Friday after Ash Wednesday. So here we are on a Friday, and depending on how good you've been in the past about following those darned rules about food in Lent, you may need a little bit of a refresher course as to what it is exactly you're supposed to be doing.
So, there are a grand total of 2 fast days in the church's entire year, only one of which falls in Lent.
Ash Wednesday and Good Friday.
And for you, those of you playing along at home, Good Friday is not in Lent. It's in the Triduum, which is its own season.
Yes, but it's very close to Lent. It's Lent adjacent.
It is both Lent and Easter adjacent, yes. So, those are the only 2 days on which you are asked to fast. And it should be noted that it's super easy to fast these days.
Yes, they're not talking like the old-fashioned fasting of only bread and water kind of a thing. It's actually a really simple fast. How it works is breakfast and lunch. Maybe collapse those into you gotta make them smaller.
Yep.
You can have 1 full-sized meal, and you can make that whenever you want. And then you are allowed 2 other meals, both very small, so that together they don't add up to quite 1 additional meal.
And no snacking in between.
No snacking in between, and also no meat.
Well, usually the fasting days are the same days as abstaining. I mean, technically
Yes.
you could have a fasting day that you weren't required to abstain, but it just happens to work out that they're both.
I only say that because we have more abstaining days, which we're going to talk about next, that aren't fast days.
Yes, but
That's
we
true.
didn't
But-
cover
but-
who has to fast.
But
So, we should cover who has to fast. It's everybody, right? Everybody of all ages.
No.
It's nobody of any ages.
No.
It's some kind of middle ground between those two.
Correct.
Okay, so children should definitely be forced to fast.
absolutely.
No.
That seems gravely irresponsible.
Yes.
So you don't start fasting until the year you turn 14?
No. 18 for fasting.
Okay, great. So kids of any sort don't have to fast. That's very
Correct.
convenient.
So if the government doesn't see you as being an adult, the church doesn't see you as having to fast.
If you can't be drafted, you don't have to fast.
Yes. And on the other side, due to the fact that quite often as you get older, you have medications you need to take that require you to eat. One, there's of course a out if you absolutely have to go and eat multiple meals due to medical reasons.
Totally fine.
If you're not sure on it, you can always ask your priest if you qualify. But anyone that year is turning 60 also does not have to fast.
An advantage of getting super old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, this doesn't mean that you can't.
Nope.
You just don't have to.
And you shouldn't do so if doing so would imperil your health.
Yes.
It's good to suffer along with our Lord, but he doesn't want you to make yourself sick. He never wants that. So, we then come to the other part of Lent, which is, on Fridays, no meat.
Wait. There's more rules?
Well,
Two rules. we covered one. Those 2 days a year, which you can't just snack all day long.
Okay, so all right. So there's the abstaining days, and now you're going to tell me there was the fasting
Those are
days.
the fast days.
So
Now
now
the
you're going to
abstaining
start
days.
talking to me about abstaining.
So, on Fridays during Lent
And Ash Wednesday.
and Ash Wednesday, you should not, and on the Friday during the Triduum, you should not eat meat.
Now, this rule also has a age thing on it. It's not quite as generous as the fasting one because, well, let's face it, in modern times, you don't have to eat meat every single day in order to not kill over and die.
That's fair.
So it's you might feel like you're going to die,
That's
but
fair.
this is a season in which you're supposed to be doing penance.
That's fair. No, that's fair. That's fair.
So, the year you turn 14 on up is when you have to abstain from meat. And you don't age out of it because again, there's very rarely medications where it's like, you must take this with a steak. And if there is,
I
would
wanna-
like to know about
I wanna
this
be on that
medication.
If there's a medication that requires a steak for taking it, I want it. I don't care what the problem is that comes along with it.
Must be taken with carne asada. Doc, I'm sure I have that.
It's probably some iron deficiency problem.
Yeah. So, I am confident that when I was a kid, I was forced to eat fish, even though I didn't have to. But
But
given that I
maybe
wasn't
2 meals.
and given that I wasn't doing any of the cooking around our house, I am perfectly fine eating whatever I was served.
Yes.
By that I mean I'm perfectly fine now. As a kid, I was whiny about it, but what are you going to do with kids?
Yes, which is another important thing about meat. We only mean meat from land and air animals. Fish is fine. Shellfish is fine. And due to weird, obscure rules, depending on where you're at, some animals that are mammals or birds that live on the water may be fine. For example, muskrat is fine in the Archdiocese of Detroit.
Check with your local ordinary.
Yep.
To see if he's given some kind of special dispensation. We really have to get down to Detroit one of these years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gonna be even harder though now that we're doing all the fish fries guaranteed.
Oh yeah. Well,
and it is one of those things where at the time they set what was a fish, they didn't have modern ways of determining what type of animal it was.
Look, it
So
spends
if
90% of
If
its
it hung
life.
out in the water, it must be a fish.
mm-hmm.
Which is also why most, if not all, amphibians and reptiles that you can eat are also fish.
So you're saying frog legs are A-okay.
A-okay.
Hey, maybe for an extraordinary thing we could do a frog leg. But as Nate was saying, and as our costumes reveal, we are deeply involved in our Knights of Columbus Council's fish fry.
Deeply involved.
I don't have a shirt because I'm a girl. But yet they still let me collect the money.
We appreciate all your efforts.
Because
So-
people give you more money than they'll give us.
That's true.
That's true.
For very understandable reasons. Because she's friendly and competent. And we are neither of those things.
Which is cute.
Very.
I can say that.
Okay.
So, Lent is an excellent time to go and support your local Knights of Columbus Council's fish fry. And the reasons to do this are many. One, it builds community. After all, we live in a world where the faith is under siege. We need each other. We need to form bonds on more than just Sundays.
So go to your fish fry. Find yourself a table, maybe with some people that you haven't met yet, and sit down and say, "Hi, my name is," and then insert your name.
Two, it helps you to fulfill the church's request that you abstain from meat on these Fridays. And three, it does help us raise money, which we then spend on charitable activities.
By attending your local fish fry, you are actually helping to feed the poor,
Clothe the naked.
help those who have accessibility issues.
Defend the unborn.
Yep.
Unless, of course, you're like me, who can't eat anything at the fish fry. And then you could always show up and be like, I'm just here to give my kids some food, and pretend like you're morally superior because you are totally, completely fasting. Even though it's not required, because it's not one of those 2 days throughout the whole year.
And even though you're doing it out of medical necessity, not out of a dedication to our Lord, you can still feel smug about it.
Necessity is not the word I would use to describe her reasons for doing it.
Yeah, I could eat the baked fish. I just don't like fish.
That's fair. But that's what makes it a penance. If
In
you
fairness, not eating anything
Well-
reasonably could be as much of a penance as not eating something as eating something you don't like.
Now, this is purely an editorial. There are some people that really, really like fish. I would recommend that on a Lenten Friday, they don't eat fish because they're not suffering in any way.
Yes, and getting lobster, kind of, it follows the rules, but it sort of defeats the purpose. Unless you're a time traveler from, the 1600s, where lobster was what they fed the servants, and they actually had a revolt in order to not have lobster every single day of the week.
So normally, if you're eating lobster thermidor on a Lenten Friday, though following the spirit of the law, you are
The letter of the law.
letter of the law, you are definitely violating the spirit. Don't grieve the spirit. So, because it's Lent, which means there's a new one of these every day, no matter how busy we are doing other stuff.
We'll be back tomorrow.
And in the vast interval between now and then, remember to
Live your faith.
Love your faith.
share that love.
Aha! Out of the loophole, time travelers from the 1600s.